When you're in the know, like I was on this particular ship, you can have cabins like this that are outliers. They have a bunch of things that make them unique and different, but importantly, they usually cost the same as other cabins in the same class. You need to be fast, you need to be smart, and you need to know what they are. And hopefully after this, you will know exactly what they are, so you can be amongst those that zoom in really quickly and snap them up. I'm Gary Bambridge, but let me start first of all with some of the more obvious and hard to find cabins that clear out really quickly when they come on sale. First of all, let's talk accessibility cabins. Less than 2% of cabins on most cruise ships are accessible cabins. So if you need one for whatever reason, you really need to know what they are, and you need to know and move really fast. For example, I looked at the 4 most popular cruise lines in the 4 biggest categories of cruising: Carnival in the mass resort value category, Princess in the premium category, Viking in the small ship luxury, and Seabourn in ultra luxury. And all had 2% or less of their cabins as accessible. So accessible cabins are a key issue. They're rare and you need to understand and move really quickly. But it gets even worse if you're a second type of traveler looking for specific cabins, which I often am. And that is if you're a solo traveler. None of those, not one of those 4 leading lines by category, Carnival, Princess, Viking or Seabourn, have any solo cabins, not one between them at the time of recording. Now on my website, tipsfortravelers.com, I have listed the lines and the ships that have solo cabins. If you take a look at it, it's a pretty dismal list, to be honest. However, the good news is that many new ships across most of the cruise lines are starting to introduce solo cabins, or cruise lines are squeezing them in on refits, like Cunard, which I'm on now, for example. They added 15 on Queen Mary 2 and 9 on their other 2 ships, of which I am on right now, one of those, Queen Elizabeth. Even small lines like Fred Olsen added 40 solo cabins onto each of the 2 ships they bought from Holland America in their refit for 2023. The only cruise line, though, that has any real number of solo cabins is Norwegian with their solo studios. So for example, on Norwegian Encore, they have 82 solo cabins and 128 on Norwegian Epic. They also then have a little solo lounge for the solo travelers. But these cabins are kind of really tiny. You might have seen Tony at La Lido Loco channel recently traveling in them. But if you want to go solo and avoid a double surcharge to occupy a cabin, you need to move really fast and be pretty nimble to snap one of those solo cabins up. The third option, which is much more appealing to everybody, perhaps you, extremely sought after, hard to nab, are aft cabins. These are the cabins at the very back of the ship. Now many people really like those, not only for the views, but also because on many cruise lines, including Cunard that I'm on, Holland America and many others, they feature massive balconies, some of which even wrap around the corner of the deck. They offer magnificent views, so that's a really big plus. There's not many of them, as I mentioned. Now personally, I'm less keen on those cabins because they can have kind of vibrations from the engines, they can have more movement in rough seas, but they are really popular, really rare. So again, you need to be nimble and fast if you want to nab one of those, particularly ones with a big wraparound balconies. Another much sought after cabin, which people who know specific ships really chase, are cabins which are in the ship's side bulge. Matt of Royal Caribbean blog, for example, he talks about these often. He really likes these and seems to seek these out. So basically, when you look at some cruise ships, you'll see in the middle section, there's a section that basically juts out. Now some of the cabins at the edge of the bulge, they tend to be bigger, but often they're not. They just have much larger than normal balconies. They also look down the side of the ship, so they're really good for unobstructed views, scenic cruising. People really like them because they don't cost anything extra. You'd expect cruise lines to charge a higher premium, but generally they don't. Again, there's not many of them, so you need to study the ship's deck plan to find out where they are, and then when they come on sale, swoop in fast and get one. The fifth type of cabin is also one where you need a little bit of insider knowledge. This is where you have bonus cabins in the same category, a little bit like the one that I just mentioned with the Bulge balconies. So for example, on Norwegian Cruise Line's breakaway class of ships, they have ocean view cabins at the very front of the ship. But in the middle, on decks 9, 10, 11, the cabins which end with 700, 9, 700, 10, 700, are twice the size of the other family ocean view rooms on either side. Now, many cruisers who are fans of Norwegian know this, and they quickly move in and sweep those up. So how on earth do you find these quirky bonus cabins? Well, of course, you need to know the ships well. So the best thing to do is ask your travel agent if they know of any, or even better, what I find is ask fans of the ship. Cruise critic notice boards are a great way of finding out those quirky cabins that people have sussed out as having extra bonus things around them. You'll also find hidden bonus cabins in the same category. As I mentioned, normally cost the same price and give you so much more. Because they're hard to find, you need to move quickly, as I've said, with all of the others. The next area of cabins that are worth looking at, and again are hard to track down and book, are spa cabins. Many cruise lines have started to introduce these grade of cabins. I've found them on lots of lines now: Carnival, Celebrity, Holland America, Norwegian, Royal Caribbean, and most recently when I was on Azamara. So they all have these spa cabins, which are normally linked in some way to the spa, as the name would obviously suggest. They often have spa access, in-room diffusers, access to fitness equipment, special menus, and other perks. They're really popular, and there's very few of them because many of them have often been wedged into the ships on refits. So for example, on Azamara Quest, in their refit, they squeezed two of these rather nice looking cabins in. They're popular because the added benefits they offer are really popular and appealing. Because there are so few of them, they sell out quickly. Now, they do often have a premium versus other balcony cabins, but you often find the perks can balance it out. One grade of cabin that appeals to a lot of people and are hard to find are family cabins, which can cater for 5, 6 or more people. Family cabins are limited in numbers. Now, these tend to be oversized cabins. They often have a separate bedroom area or even a whole complete separate bedroom space. They often have split or multiple bathrooms. Now, a really obvious example, a good example, is on Disney cruises. I was on Disney Magic recently, and I had what was known as the deluxe family veranda cabin. This had a split bathroom, so it made it much better when families were kind of getting ready together. Now, most of the family lines, so that's things like MSC, Royal Caribbean, Carnival, and Norwegian, of course, have quite a lot of family cabins. They have all those spaces that I mentioned included. Now, the good news is also, depending on your budget, they have them available at different levels. So again, if I use Royal Caribbean as an example, they have family cabins, interior cabins, ocean view cabins, right through to suites, so catering for loads and loads of different budget types. But even on other lines like Holland America, which is trying to attract more families, they've started to introduce family suites, but they only have 32 of them on their newer ships. Now, these cabins have more living space, they can hold up to 5 guests, they have separate bathrooms, they have more storage space, but you need to move fast because there's so few of them if you're traveling as a family, particularly, of course, during peak family seasons. Now, if you don't manage to get a family-specific cabin, one way to get around that is to book, perhaps at a lower grade than you were thinking, but book interconnecting cabins next to each other. But again, you need to plan ahead to make sure you find those and get those locked in. But another key area linked to all of this is if you're planning to book a multiple occupancy cabin. So you're going to be traveling, say, as 2 couples together in the same cabin, or you're traveling with friends. Now, firstly, there are a limited number of multiple occupancy cabins on many lines. Now, if you're in the more family resort lines like MSC, Royal Caribbean, or even things like Disney, they do have many more of them. But a lot of cruise lines which are catering more for couples, they have much fewer of them. So you need, again, to find out what they are, move pretty fast if you're traveling as a group. But secondly, you also need to look for cabins which have a more distinctive area. So for example, in this cabin there's a seating area, there's a bedroom area, but there's no curtain between the two. But there's many cabins that would have a curtain between the two, making it a much more private space if you're sharing. So they are much harder to find. They're much better if you're traveling with friends or extended members of your family because you have a bit more privacy. To find those, you need to ask your travel agent, the cruise line, or again, those cruise critic boards are great to check if the cabins that you're looking at have that kind of separate divider thing. It doesn't cost anything extra. Now, the next area is one of my favorite areas, and it is the more quirky, one-of-a-kind cabins that are special, different, and some of these cost more, but not always a lot more money. Now, one of the most renowned of all of these is the Ben and Jerry's Suite, which is on the Freedom class ships in the Royal Caribbean Fleet. This is a stateroom that is just above the Ben and Jerry's store, as the name would suggest, and you get all sorts of perks. You get free ice cream. The cabin itself is quite unique, has very distinctive decor, so this, the cow hide decor. You then have perks like concierge lounge, priority reservations. It's just a very unusual, fun cabin. The second one, which I think is fantastic, is, and I saw it on Hapag-Lloyd Europa too, is they have what they call a family apartment, where you have two connected cabins, two separate areas, but the kids area is fitted with special bathrooms, it's got bunk beds, it's got all sorts of toys in it. Then there's the Tower Suite, which is on the new Disney ships like Wish and Treasure. This is a suite which is built into the funnel. It's super quirky, it's really unusual, and it's pretty spectacular. On Royal Caribbean, they have quite a few unusual and unique suites and cabins, like the Aqua Theatre suites. They're on the Oasis class ships. They can hold up to 8 guests. They overlook the Aqua Theatre, so you have this big wraparound balcony with incredible views of the sea and of course kind of prime time fantastic private space to watch the aqua shows. Also in Royal Caribbean you'll find one of the things that I think is amazing, the Ultimate Family Suite, a 2-level complex. It's got air hockey, Lego wars, hot tubs and a slide between the 2 levels. But there are many different themed special cabins across different cruise lines. I was on Virgin recently where they have what they know as their rock star suites with guitars and record players and all that kind of stuff. So ask around, what are these little quirky ones on ships? Many people chase cabins which have been added onto ships, and this I've found is a really good watch out. As many ships age, lots of cruise lines start to add more cabins by reconfiguring spaces that aren't being used very much in refits. So for example, as I mentioned, Cunard introduced solar cabins by reconfiguring space that was in the casino, for example. So on Queen Mary 2 though, they added Britannia Club, which is a whole completely new class of cabins, completely new category. They added this at the top of the ship. It was an area that used to be an open deck space that was not really being used. Other cruise lines like Silversea have cut ships in half and added whole midsections, so they've stretched it. You know, Windstar recently have done it with Breeze, Legend and Pride, and they've basically added brand new cabins. So what I've done, for example, for a cruise that I've booked on Windstar for next year, is I've made sure that I've booked in one of the cabins in that new added section, because looking at they're a little bit more modern, more contemporary, they have better facilities, and they don't actually cost anything more, but they're just basically going to be better because they've been added in much later. If you want to know more about choosing a cabin, watch this video where I talk about how you can find a cabin in the best part of the ship. So even if you've missed out on some of these special ones, you can ensure that you get the best place on the ship, starting with a little trick that works for me every single time. See you over there.